Okay, we're recording. I am Clay Douglas. I am the Free American, and this will be a little shortened show because of technical difficulties. Fortunately, we got everything back up and working. It seems like, oh no, not quite, not quite. Let me do this. 15 minutes late, 20 minutes late, but we'll try to get my talk stream working. Okay, we're trying to get talk stream up too. Okay, we've got TalkStream up. You are listening to the Free American Hour. Technical difficulties, and it's been going on all over the country. Brog TV went out. Snowstorm on the East Coast. Unusual snowstorm on the East Coast. And so we are trying to get everything working again. Okay. Hopefully we've done that, and we're recording here. And Schaefer Cox. This is part one. So let's listen to him while I'm trying to get everything else set back up. Let's see if we can do that. See if everything's playing here. Probably need a new computer, but that's going to take me a while to get the money for that. Folks, I do need some donations. I do need your support here. We are fighting a war, and I'm not begging here for money. I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you that this is what it takes. In order to run a show, we're not this. By the way, this is a Montana meeting.
Okay, Schaefer, come on up. Let's go.
Great.
Okay, this is Schaefer Cox. I'm going to let him introduce himself, okay? He does a
Yeah, he does a pretty young. I've worn ever since I had a Trump Spitfire. All right, Schaefer. Again, the computer's hanging up, folks. This is what the problem is, and I don't know exactly what's going on here. Yep, the whole internet has hung up again on me here. Okay. Okay, let's try this again.
I'm going to let him introduce himself, okay? He does a better job of that. Here we go.
Let's all stand up and stretch a little bit, because I'm going to go for a long time. I was going to say stand up while you're clapping, but, you know, thought better of it. Okay, thanks. Where's Dean Porter? Oh no. Let me see if I can open this. TSA might have messed it up, you know.
I'm going to let him introduce himself, okay? He does a better job of that. Here we go.
I told him I wouldn't unlock this last time I went through security. And they said, stand up and why not a little bit? Oh, shoot. Because I'm going to go for a long time. In there. so I had to open it up. I was going to say stand up while you're clapping, but, you know, anyway. You know, we're going to hell in a freight train, you know. But it's okay to laugh about it a little bit here and there. And I want to talk about that for a second. be real frank about that. I know why you guys are here. Okay?
Come on, get on with it here, Shaver.
You know what? I've been traveling all over the country, and Alaska's my favorite place. A lot of people there show up, but we're all here for the same reason. It's because we know in our gut that something is horribly wrong. You don't have to be told. Nobody told you that something is wrong. You know, because you have a heart and a spirit and a mind that's perceptive to those things. And you got a sense, and you know when something bad is going on. And I don't know about you, but well, I think I do know about you, but I'm going to tell you how I feel anyway. The way that I feel when I look around at this current debacle that we have, and it's been building for years and years, is I feel like there's just this huge power out there. It's just incomprehensible even to think about influencing it, let alone stopping it. And all I want is just to be free and to respect other people and have them respect me and to be protected by the law and do what I want, you know, and have freedom. That's all I want. And I don't know how to argue that from all the nitty-gritty statutes and everything like that. And I don't understand all the ins and outs of this giant monster that's coming our way and bulldozing over our freedom. But I feel in my gut a resentment, and I think that you identify with this, that you shouldn't have to understand all that stuff. You shouldn't have to understand all that stuff. And that our rights are rights, and we shouldn't have to buy our rights with hassle. We shouldn't have to you know, combat this giant monster with all this specialized knowledge and all this money and you know, win and get our rights. You know, you hear about these guys that fought the IRS or fought the ATF or anything like this, and they're like, yeah, I do them. It took me 30 years and $17,000. And you're like, that sounds like a prison sentence. 30 years and $17,000. You know, who's the real winner here? You know, they got you. They just got you the other way. You know, you might have won, but you were dead right. That just makes me sick. And it makes a lot of people sick. And we know that our nation, you know, we feel that it's getting wobbly, and it's worrying us. We see this looming power. We see these videos like we saw today that they can just lock you up for any reason without a phone call or nothing. You just disappear. And so we show up here. Why? Because we don't know what else to do. And what we get told so many times, it feels like you got kicked in the teeth with a government-issued boot, is all you can do is you can beg the tyrant to change. You can commit your life to a long, slow drudge uphill to try to reform this monster. And your heart just sinks. You're like, oh gosh, is that really the price of freedom? Is that our only chance? Is to try to make go to Washington? What if I ran for office and I got elected, and I could go there to Washington where I can't have a gun and try to be a good influence on tyranny? You know, and people think, oh, it just makes your heart sink. And we come to these meetings and we leave here with this list that goes down to the floor of things that you can do, you know, and well, you keep begging them, and you can keep kissing the ring, and maybe they'll hear you if there's enough of us. Well, you know what? That doesn't really resonate with my spirit. I can't really come out and say there's anything wrong with that stuff. But I tell you what, it doesn't make me jump out of my chair either. And I want to tell you, I just am really excited to tell you some pretty unconventional but pretty cool stuff that we've been pioneering in Alaska. Actually, you know what? We're not pioneering it, because people throughout all of human history have done this. But we're pioneering it in human memory. There's nobody alive who really remembers this, at least not in this country. I can't wait to get to that. But first I want to hit a couple of points about this giant monster that we're trying to reform, okay? I want to explain how it works and how they got us. So I'm young, I got good eyes, I can read my notes down there. Alright. The first thing that we're up against that we've got to understand our enemies. And you got to, be honest about who your enemy is. And that is anyone who would take away from us the freedoms that God gave us. Anybody who, when you ask them what their authority is, their only answer is because I said so, is tyranny, and that's our enemy. We've got to recognize that. Now, that puts a lot of people in our enemy category, but you know what? That's okay. Let's first talk about the money situation. This is the main tool of tyranny. And this all comes down to legal theory, which I'm really excited to talk about, because that's how we got so far off base in this country. Alright? So that's what really allowed the monetary debacle to be here. But we got to understand the monetary debacle because it's the main tool. It really is the teeth of the beast. Here's how it works. Alright? The Federal Reserve, which is not federal or reserve, it's just like a cooperative of private banks that are named after their best customer. Okay? They are allowed to print up money out of thin air, just print up trillions of dollars out of thin air and loan that to the government, to the federal government, with interest. That's a pretty good gig for them. They print up dollars, thin air, loan it to them at interest. We pay the interest. That's what our income tax is for, which was passed at the same time, 1913. On Christmas Eve, there was question even whether there was a proper quorum. It was really shifty, and they kind of duped Woodrow Wilson into it because he was dupable, and they got it passed. Now, here's why that's so bad. You might say, well, what's wrong with them printing up money out of nowhere? Well, here's how it works, okay? Dollars respond to the law of supply and demand, just like everything else does. When the number of dollars in existence goes up, the value of each one of those dollars goes down. Now, the value lost by the dollars that you held, or the retirement that was in a fixed dollar amount that you're counting on, or whatever, the value lost by your dollars is value transferred to whoever printed the new dollars.
All right, there's a pretty nice summary of what's going on, but let's talk about let's hear from Naomi Wolf. I promised you we would hear from her, because this is a Jewish author, a Jewish reporter who has been pretty accurate. Again, one of the good guys like Aaron Russo, like numbers, not too many, but Naomi's done a pretty good job. And she got involved in the Occupy Wall Street, and she got arrested. She got, okay, that's slow loading too. And I have tried to put something together here in Cochise County, because the sheriffs are under siege here. They are under siege. And where did it go there? Naomi Wolf says America's politicians, it seems, have had their fill of democracy. Across the country, police, acting under orders from local officials, are breaking up protest encampments set up by supporters of the Occupy Wall Street, OWS movement, sometimes with shocking and utterly with violence, in other words. The worst incident so far, hundreds of police dressed in riot gear surrounded Occupy Oakland's encampment and fired rubber bullets, which can be fatal, flash grenades, and tear gas canisters, with some officers taking aim directly at the demonstrators. The Occupy Oakland Twitter feed read like a report from Cairo's Tahrir Square. They are surrounding us. Hundreds and hundreds of police. There are armored vehicles and Hummers. There were 170 arrests. Naomi says, my own arrest, while obeying the terms of the permit and standing peacefully on a street in lower Manhattan, brought the reality of this crackdown close to home. America's waking up to what was built while it slept. Private companies have hired away its police. J.P. Morgan Chase gave $6.4 million to the New York City Police Foundation. The Federal Department of Homeland Security has given small municipal police forces military-grade weapons systems. Citizen rights to freedom of speech and assembly have been steadily undermined by opaque permit requirements. Suddenly, the United States looks like the rest of the furious, protesting, not completely free world. Indeed, most commentators have not fully grasped that a world war is occurring, but it is unlike any previous war in human history. And folks, this is exactly what I told you over 10 years ago on the True Face of FEMA film. I filmed the first Homeland Security meeting. And the good colonel there, Brinkerhoff, is telling law enforcement, yeah, we're in a war, and it's going to be a long war. It might be longer than the Cold War, and the enemy is weak. The enemy doesn't have helicopters. That's because the enemy is you. And here, a Jewish lady, that is Naomi Wolf, that is agreeing with me. We are in a war. The last story that I put out, which is up on my website, I just sent it out in an email. I told you, I realized we've been in a war when I found out the CIA was bringing the drugs into this country. And we get more exciting revelations every day. The BATF, not only did they hit Waco, not only did they blow up their own headquarters at the Murrah Federal Building, killing more children. How many children has the BATF killed? A lot more than David Koresh ever dreamed about. And Naomi Wolf says that we're in a world war. A world war is occurring. And folks, General McCaffrey, who I just sent an email to with my latest story, has told us that these counties are war zones. These border counties that I'm living in right now is a war zone. And Naomi says that this war is unlike any previous war in human history. For the first time, people around the world are not identifying and organizing themselves along national or religious lines, but rather in terms of a global consciousness that demands for a peaceful life, a sustainable future, economic justice, and basic democracy. Their enemy is a global corporatocracy that has purchased governments and legislators, created its own armed enforcers, engaged in systematic economic fraud, and plundered treasuries and ecosystems. Around the world, peaceful protesters are being demonized for being disruptive, but democracy is disruptive. Martin Luther King Jr. argued that the peaceful disruption of business as usual is healthy because it exposes brutal and buried injustices which can then be addressed. Protesters ideally should dedicate themselves to discipline, non-violent disruption in this spirit, especially disruption of traffic. This serves to keep provocateurs at bay while highlighting the unjust militarization of the police. And this is one of the problems I have with the whole Christian identity movement. They're trying to demonize the Jews. They want to do to the Jews or the Mexicans or the blacks everything that they say is being done to them. That makes them no better. The problem we have today, folks, is how do you fight evil without becoming evil? And we do it non-violently. We don't stoop to their levels. We don't do that. And if somebody's calling for violence, that's your provocateur, that's your Fed, that's your ADL, that's your Mossad, that's your CIA or FBI guy. And Naomi Wolf also says, protest movements did not succeed in hours or days. They typically involve sitting down or occupying areas for long hauls. This is one reason why protesters should raise their own money and hire their own lawyers. The kleptocracy is afraid that citizens will reclaim the rule of law in every country. Protesters should field an army of attorneys. This is a Jewish lady speaking. Fuck the attorneys. They don't do any good. They don't help. They're part of the problem. They work for the bar, in my opinion. And, I mean, I've got attorneys out there I've had on my show. I hope they're doing a good job. I hope they're doing something for their clients. But the clients are still in jail. The clients are still in the same position they were in the beginning, except they're tied up in the courts. But I do agree with Naomi Wolf when she says protesters should also make their own media rather than relying on mainstream outlets to cover them. They should blog, tweet, write editorials and press releases, as well as log and document cases of police abuse and the abuser. And folks, that's what I have been doing for 20 years. I published at Fear American. I've always been able to make money at it up until this point. When they killed all of my companies, all of my corporations, I lost my attorneys, I lost my CPAs, I lost my employees, and I lost my family. I'm not whining and I'm not complaining. I understand that we are in a war. I understand that. And I recently set up and fomented and organized a ride, an event in Cochise County to support Sheriff Larry Deaver. At the same time, I found out that my friend Richard Mack was proposing an organization of sheriffs. And you know, it says right up there on my website, on the 11-11-11 run event for Larry Deaver. We've got it'll be at the Arena Bar, supposedly for 3 days, and the woman that asked me to do this for her has suddenly taken it away from me, and I don't know quite what she's doing yet, or how this is happening. But the sheriffs are asking everybody to investigate the ATF to fire Eric Holder. And the sheriffs are meeting in California. I've got a film of that up there. People are getting active. And we've got to back our sheriff. What they're trying to do right now with these events that Naomi Klein is talking about is separate the people from the police. The police are the enemies. The police are the banksters. The police are but the sheriffs are not. And we need to support them as much as possible. Now, let me see. Okay, where did this go? The sheriffs and veterans, and this was my idea too, remember? Remember this? It says right up there. It says right up in the top of the thing. By the way, I will take calls today, 646-915-8774. Started late, but not in that chat room, but it's still available. It's still available. And these... find this. Yeah. Sheriff Mack saying, what would you do if you knew you had just one chance to save your family and country from complete and utter destruction? What would you do if you knew there was a lawful and peaceful way to restore the Constitution and its Bill of Rights as the supreme law of the land? As a former peace officer and county sheriff, if I were to take a stand in court right this minute, sworn to tell the truth, I would, without any hesitation or ambiguity, testify to you and every American that there is a solution, that there is a way to secure liberty and protect ourselves, our family, and once again live in peace and freedom. The solution is in your hands. It is within your own backyard. It is right in your own county. The solution is state sovereignty in each county acting in accordance with the principles established in the 10th Amendment. It's you working with your county sheriff and local elected officials to stand for the Bill of Rights and stand against the out-of-control federal government and its agencies. The bottom line answer is your county sheriff. Ultimately, he's the one who will decide what is and what is not in force in your county. He has the authority and duty, oath-bound duty, to interpose himself on your behalf to protect you from all enemies, both foreign and domestic. He is the people's protector. But the county sheriffs cannot do this alone. They need training, education, support. To this end, I formed the Constitutional Sheriff and Peace Officers Association, the CSPOA, and one of the first projects is a national convention of up to 200 county sheriffs targeted to convene January 2012 in Las Vegas, Nevada. We can free America now one county at a time, and I agree with that. Now, another gentleman that I've invited to speak at this event, where I will be speaking, to relate these words from Richard Mack, who's going to be in Tulsa at the same time, and he can't do it, I can. Mike Harris was just on my show, and he says, Americans are united in the Occupy protests. Across America, citizens and veterans alike watch in horror and disbelief while police forces across the country inflict violence against peaceful protesters, just as Miami Klein just told you. These college kids are our children, the veterans our brothers, and the old folks our parents. We watch as the mainstream media attempts to dilute and manipulate the message and make false claims that the demonstrators have no message. The demonstrators have a message, and it is very clear. They're saying, we want justice for all. We want the Wall Street bankers who have crippled and robbed our country, robbed all of us, and robbed future generations, brought to justice. We want the banksters tried and held accountable for their crimes against us. We want clean and fair government, not government for sale to the highest bidder. The Wall Street bankers have stolen all our money. We can no longer afford to influence our elected officials because the Wall Street bankers have driven the price to own a politician through the roof. We want the banking system totally rebuilt. We want an end to the Federal Reserve Bank. We want the U.S. Treasury to do its constitutionally mandated function. We want our jobs back. It is no longer acceptable for CEOs to ship our jobs to China and offshore production just to make their bonus and inflate the value of their stock options. We want our jobs back. It is no longer acceptable for the CEOs to ship our jobs to China and offshore production just to make their bonuses. We want a justice system that's fair to all people. We want the police to assist and protect the people, not the iron boot of fascism on our throat if we object to a violation of our Fourth Amendment rights when catching an airplane. We want the Patriot Act repealed and the U.S. Constitution restored to the supreme law of the land. We want the border secured and the illegal aliens returned to their homelands. We want our churches, schools, and neighborhoods free of drugs and criminals that molest our country. We want an honest and truthful investigation of the treason of 9/11. We want the real perpetrators punished for these crimes against our country. I think that makes it pretty friggin' clear, don't you? I think that makes it very, very clear. Yeah, Alex Jones, I had Alex Jones on my show while he was still just a radio broadcaster when I was doing worldwide shortwave. That's, you're right there, Lori. Yep, the politician.